Potty training, the thing that every parent dreads. Hi mamas, welcome back to our channel. So both Andrea and I did a potty training approach called the 3-day potty training method.
And the nice thing about it is it's supposed to only take 3 days, and as long as you're consistent, your child is pretty much potty trained, possibly with a few accidents here and there, but otherwise you're pretty much good to go in public. But the idea is you take 3 days off, or at least stay at home 3 days, so that you can focus on potty training the child. I usually take a towel, throw it around my neck, and I'm basically following the child everywhere in the house, including having a puppy pad where they can sit on, but you're pretty much just trying to see and observe when they go on the potty and have a potty available to throw them on the potty as soon as they go.
So we do this 3-day method as well, but we do it a little bit differently. We set a timer for every 15 minutes, and the child is required to sit on the potty, and in the beginning they have to sit there until they actually go pee or poop, and then as the days go on, we gradually extend it, so then the timer goes to every 30 minutes or every 45 minutes, and then eventually we just remind them like, hey, do you need to go potty? And then they can say yes or no, and then if they've hit like the hour mark and they still haven't agreed to go potty, then we kind of like force them to sit there until they go, and we give them bottles of water, so they have to go, like they're constantly drinking, so they do have to go pretty frequently, so it gives us the opportunity to train them and practice with them.
And the goal is also to give them a lot of salty snacks so that their bodies actually require them to drink more water. That way they're super well hydrated, and it'll make them pee even more to get them in the habit of going. Now, in terms of why our methods are a little differently, my guess is because I started potty training almost a decade ago, and I did it with 3 kids, and apparently things have changed because she uses a 15-minute timer, which I was not even aware that the 3-day method consisted of.
So a few tips to make this 3-day potty training method easier. Number 1 is to have them go pants and underwearless. I cannot stress this enough. With all 3 of my kids, when we tried to potty train them in the beginning, I was like, oh, it's okay, we'll put them with undies and we'll just help them take it on and off. I feel like every time they got it confused with a diaper, because I guess they just like felt something there, so they felt like they were free to like pee or poop in it, and we just had so many accidents. So with a 2-year-old we're currently potty training, we did the first day underwearless, and then the second day I was like, oh, okay, we'll just try to put underwear on him and see how he does. Right away he had an accident, so we knew, take it off again, and sure enough he didn't have an accident the rest of the day.
And don't get tempted to put on a pull-up. I feel like that's one of the most deceitful things that we get from the market. Them telling us, hey, put them in a pull-up, and then they'll learn how to potty train when they're ready. If you really want this to succeed, you really need to stick to the 3-day method, which is pantless, no underwear, long t-shirt or dress, obviously for little girls. It's just so much easier to tackle.
Something else to like really drive this home is to have like a little like ceremony with your child. Like, look, we're throwing away all the diapers. They're in the trash. There's no more. Bye-bye diapers. And then I took my foster son shopping, and he got to pick out his own underwear. He loves Paw Patrol, so he picked out these really cute like Paw Patrol underwear, and he was so excited to wear them. So we're like, bye-bye diapers, look at your cool new big boy undies. And then he gets excited because he wants to wear them. So our deal was, if you go like, you know, a day or 2 without an accident, you can start putting on your undies, and now he gets to wear them and he loves them.
And some of us who are bigger decided to Amazon, and he just picked a pack, so it obviously wasn't as special, but he did get to pick them out on Amazon.
Another thing I did with my kids, which I think helped, is to have them in the bathroom with me when I'm going potty, so they can see me doing it or to see their older siblings doing it, and then to put them on the potty if they wanted to like practice or just sit on there, just so they get comfortable with it, because a lot of children have like this like weird fear with the potty, and if you just make it like normal for them, they're less likely to develop that. Another thing we did in our household for our first 2 children is we cloth diapered them, and I feel like that helped them both to potty train a lot sooner. My daughter was 21 months when she was potty trained, and my son was 23 months. And I feel like because they could like recognize when they were wet, they were able to tell me like, hey mommy, I need you to change my diaper. Whereas they may be harder for a child who's in regular diapers to be able to like tell that they're wet, because it's so good at absorbing it and keeping them comfortable.
And I think this is where we differ, because our first 2 were potty trained right before 2 years old, one at 20 months and one at 23 months. And they were both in regular diapers. I think the key for us was just making sure that they know how to sign potty and knowing to communicate that. So it did take time, and you're totally right that they needed to see it and know that like, I need to go potty. And so I would go to the bathroom, and getting that sign across was really, really crucial since they were under 2 years old.
So with our first child, we actually let them go to the store with us. We were like picking out the undies. We also let her pick out a special potty, and we got a potty seat that goes on the ground, and we also got a potty ring that goes on the actual toilet for when we're ready to move up to the big toilet, because it is so much easier when they move to that, because you don't have to clean out like a yucky toilet bowl and like scrape the poop out or whatever. But obviously if you're on child like 2, 3, 4, 5 going on her, then you probably don't want to buy a new potty every time. So it really depends on your budget, how excited you want them to be about potty training, and just what you prefer.
You could also get the toilet seat that has the built-in mini potty. For me, I like it because when I clean the toilet, it's part of the cleaning and it's not another thing to take off and wash the whole ring.
I will say something to look for in a potty is, especially if you have a boy, is to look for one that has a high wall in the front so that the pee doesn't go over.
Sorry.
Pee guard, yes. So it doesn't go over the potty, it stays down, because we learned the hard way that if you don't have that, it just becomes messy and it's really gross to clean up.
And for little girls, I would highly encourage you to have them sit up straight, because as soon as they start to slouch, you'll notice that the direction of their pee will sometimes just come out of the toilet.
A few things I like to have on hand when I'm potty training is like a pet urine cleaner spray, especially if you have carpets, because then when the kids have accidents on the ground, it's sort of easier to clean up, and you know that, the smell is not going to sit there. We have mostly hardwood floors, but we do have some carpeted areas, and when the smell gets in there, let me tell you, it sticks and it's really gross. So make sure you have the proper cleaning supplies on hand.
And make sure you have enough puppy pads. I think puppy pads come in so handy, especially since your kid has no bottoms on. That t-shirt is not going to do a lot for absorbing the pee. So if they're going to sit on the couch, do not let them sit without a puppy pad underneath. Same thing with if they're going to sit on the rug. So it does take a lot of effort. Like I said, I am following them everywhere so that I can, have them sit on the puppy pad as we're playing. They're still sitting on there. All of this to avoid accidents.
So what we actually do to avoid getting pee or anything on the furniture is our foster son has his own little toddler chair, and so we'll bring it into the living room with a puppy pee pad on it, and he is not allowed to sit on the couch while he is potty training. He's allowed to have his own special chair because it has the pee pad on it, and then once he goes a day or two without having an accident, then he's allowed to upgrade back to the big kid couch where all the potty trained kids go. But in the meantime, that avoids some accidents on your furniture. I also really like to have wet wipes on hand for when we're potty training. For the pee, you don't need that as much, but for poop, you definitely want some nearby. If they're on the big potty, flushable wipes are really handy because you could just throw them in there and flush them and you're good to go. If you're using regular wipes, just keep a plastic bag with you to throw them in, especially if it's poops. You can just throw that in the garbage when you're done, because otherwise you have to throw it in the potty and then you have to find a way to fish it out of the little potty and throw it in the trash and get all the poop and pee out of the potty, and it's just a big mess. So it's good to keep it separate. So as soon as the child pees, we like to empty the potty right away, because that way when they go back on the potty, you can see if there's new pee in there, so you know when to reward them or not. So we make sure it's always empty when he's not on the potty, so we know when new pee comes in.
I also like to make sure it's dried, which I know kind of sounds crazy, but at times when you rinse it off and you dump it all out and you let it dry, if they go to the potty in the next, let's say 15 minutes, there's still kind of water that drips a little bit down. So I never know if it's a few, did you just pee a few drops or is it water? So I like to just even have paper towels, wipe it down so that I know it was 100% dried before they stand on the potty. This would be a good time to actually allow your child to have more juice, especially if they're the type of child that doesn't drink enough water. You want to make sure that they stay really, really hydrated, because you want this 3 days for them to actually rush to the potty often enough for them to be trained in the 3 days. If they're drinking just a small amount per day, they're going to go 1 or 2 times potty, and you're not going to get through it in 3 days.
I will also say that if you're doing the 3-day potty training method like we are, you just eliminate diapers completely, so morning and night. And so we cut off liquids at 5:30 when we're done with dinner so that he doesn't have to keep going potty throughout the night. We have been letting him go to sleep, and then he kind of wakes up crying in the middle of the night, and we kind of rush over to his room to help him go potty, and we've had quite a few accidents overnight. And so I recently looked up to get a refresher on the 3-day potty training method, because it's been 2 years since I last potty trained, and it actually says on there you're supposed to set the alarm for halfway through the night to wake them up and to make them go potty. So we're going to try that tonight. Let you know how it goes. We haven't been totally unsuccessful. He's had maybe 1 accident a night, and then he's been dry the rest of the time, but we're hoping to get to 0 accidents day and night.
And I want to throw in there that I had the impression that when you potty train during the day first, and then you move on to night. So with our first one, I remember she was potty trained at 20 months, but she wasn't potty trained at night, and I thought that was normal. To find out that it's actually easier to tackle the whole thing all at once and not treat it as 2 separate potty training sessions. So if you're going to go ahead and do the 3-day method and potty train, do it at night too. Be consistent. Yes, it's going to be a pain in the tuchus to wake up at night, but I'm telling you, it's totally worth it. Within a week, it's good.
When I potty trained my daughter like 3-4 years ago, it was fresh in my mind because I had just researched everything. And so I did like overnight and during the day, and she was literally 3 days done, no more accidents ever again. And it was awesome. With my son, I was like, oh, I have another child. It's kind of too much. I'll give him pull-ups when we go out of the house. I'll give him pull-ups overnight and for naps. And he was potty trained in 3 days, but he had a ton of accidents like after the 3 days. It took so much longer for him to be like fully potty trained. So if you're gonna go this method, like do it all. It's gonna be a pain for like 3 days, possibly a week, because every child is different. We did a pretty strict like 3-day potty training method with my current foster son, but he is mostly potty trained. Like during the day, he hasn't been having accidents, but he does still at night. But every kid is different, so if it doesn't work out like perfectly in the 3 days, don't give up, just keep at it, it will work.
Alana mentioned how with her second child, she's like, you know what, I'm going to let them stay in diapers at night, and notice there were more accidents, and that's exactly what happened with our first. We had more accidents with our first child because I think we allow the diapers at night, which I just think is confusing. It makes sense. Like, this is what we do during the day. We use the potty, but then at night you're back to these diapers. So again, I think it's really important to be consistent all throughout, morning, night, every time. This is a good time to include a reward system. Whether you have a sticker chart or you reward them with a piece of candy, chocolate, whatever it is, whatever you're comfortable with giving, I think it's really important to have something smaller for pee and something a little bit more for poop.
So what we do in our house is our son loves ice cream and jelly beans. So for every pee, he gets a jelly bean. And let me clarify, we are now on day 8. So we are at the point where he needs to tell us he needs to use the potty. So we have to tell him to go potty and remind him he does not get a treat for that. But if he comes to us and says, Mommy, I need to go potty, then he'll get a jelly bean after he successfully goes on the potty. But for poop, we give him a couple bites of ice cream every time he does a poop on the potty.
And of course, this needs to be tailored differently for different age children. Like when we potty trained our first 2 that were under 2 versus our third who was exactly 2 years old, you obviously can communicate better with children that are over 2. So use that accordingly depending on your child's age. So just make sure you use what your child likes to actually reward them.
And speaking of using what your child likes, make sure you also get books and like shows that have to do with potty training with characters that your children likes. So for example, my daughter was super into Daniel Tiger. So we got a Daniel Tiger potty book where he uses the potty on his own, and then we watched the episode that went along with it. And then she was super excited because she got to be like Daniel Tiger. And you don't have to buy all these things. Our local library has a ton of like potty training books. So I remember with my son, I just got like 20 different books, and every time he would sit on the potty, we would just sit there and like cycle through all of them. And so he really liked it because he saw all his favorite characters in the books doing these things. So that also really helps.
Oftentimes you'll hear other moms say like, oh, my child is not ready. I think it's really important to base it on, again, your sanity too. The child may not be ready mentally, and that's okay to wait, but there are plenty of children who are ready to be potty trained before 2, and they honestly don't show any signs. Like I said, 3 kids successfully trained by 24 months, and none of them really showed any interest in it until we actually introduced them to it.
And my daughter was 21 months when we potty trained her, and everybody was like, oh, she's too young, she's not showing signs, blah, 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 she's not telling you when she's ready to go. Like I said, she was the easiest child to train. She was potty trained 3 days, no accidents. She was super easy, and to this day, still has never had an accident. Whereas the 2-year-old I'm currently potty training is the oldest. He is 2.5, and he can clearly tell you when he needs to use the potty and stuff, and we're on day 8, and we're still having accidents. So just do it whenever is best for your family. One thing I forgot to mention is to give them extra treats if they wake up dry from naps, or when they wake up dry, especially from overnight, because that is a big accomplishment. Sometimes I struggle going through the entire night without having to get up and use the potty. So if they can make it through an entire nap or an entire night without waking up to go potty, they should get extra treats for that.
Or even a special breakfast. Like obviously you can just change the reward as needed, but don't forget to enforce that they woke up dried instead of just rewarding them when they actually succeed on the potty. So if you're a family like us, we try to avoid added sugar pretty much at all costs unless it's a special holiday. And potty training is not a special holiday. So the big question that I was thinking when I first started training a decade ago was, when in the world do I cut out these rewards? And when can I stop with all this sugar?
So this you'll really have to base off of your child when you feel like they're ready and they don't need the extra motivation. So with my 2-year-old, we are, like I said, on day 8. And so he is at the point now where he doesn't get a treat for every time he goes potty. He gets a treat for when he actually tells us and takes the initiative to go potty on his own. And then he still gets treats for pooping because we're still struggling with that a little bit. We're hoping by the end of the week we can just give him a treat like, oh, you stayed dry and didn't have an accident all morning, so you get a treat before nap, you get a treat before bed, so twice a day. and then eventually, oh, you get a treat at the end of the day because you didn't have an accident all day, and then eventually just phase it all out altogether.
And I noticed early on as I potty trained the girls, they would just forget with time. Like they'd go, and of course at the beginning it's super consistent, and then they would just kind of forget. It's kind of like the advent calendar with the chocolate. I don't know if anybody ends up at the end of the month with like half of it just still closed in there. So once they are successfully potty trained, we would highly recommend that you do pants that are easy on, easy off. That means staying away from jeans that they barely can button or pull apart to go, because at times they're going to have to really, really rush to go to the bathroom, and the last thing you want is to have them have an accident right in front of the toilet.
They also sell these things now that are like these really padded underwear. They kind of remind me of cloth diapers, but they're nice for overnight, because and then if the child is like waking up and then they like pee a little bit and then they like catch themselves, then they need to go potty, then it's not getting all over the bed sheets, and in the morning you notice that they had an accident, but most of it is caught in the underwear. But it's not quite the same as a diaper.
Which is funny because I didn't even know they existed until baby number 4, apparently. I just got them a few days ago, and they came and I was like, why are these so thick? Now I know what they're used for.
And we will link those down in the description below. One more note I want to add is that if your child is having a lot of accidents the first day, don't be discouraged. The key is consistency. My daughter, who was potty trained fully in 3 days, the first day literally peed all over the floor, had so many accidents, and she was my most successful potty training experience.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because with our first child, this was a decade ago, I still have the app that I use to keep track of her accidents. And the first day, I'm pretty sure, was between 8 and 10 accidents. So if you base it on that, you'd say, oh, this child is not ready to be potty trained. But yes, she was potty trained within the 3 days.
All right, mamas, we hope that some of these tips have helped you. Good luck on your potty training journey. If you try this method, please let us know in the comment section how this worked out for you. If you have another potty training method that you swear by, let us know down in the comment section below.
You totally got this. Now go tackle it.